Welcome to the atelier.
Hey! Woo! Welcome to Talk About It, Be About It, the show in 2 parts. And my guest today is a very fascinating up-and-coming designer named Gannon. We're going to step into the history of American couture and where it's heading. Hey, Gannon.
Hi, Miranda.
Welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having me.
As I fix my hair.
I know. You look gorgeous, though.
Talk About It, Be About It.
Okay.
I want to get into how we met because I think it's hilarious.
You got it.
So I walked into a store you were working out on Abbot Kinney.
Yeah.
Looking for my cousin who worked next door. And she's having a full sob.
Yeah, absolutely crying into my arms.
She was having a literal mental breakdown. And I was like, wow, who is this lovely person that is making Claudia feel 10 times better than I would have? Fast friends. I complimented those earrings.
Thank you very much.
And you casually was like, I'm a fashion designer.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I love fashion. I may need a stylist, but I love fashion.
Yeah, I mean, I love fashion too. Like, I have been obsessed with it since I was about like 12 years old, and like been doing like deep dive researches on just like about anything I could get my hands on. So like when, like we were talking about like the stuff that we got into that day, I was like, oh, for sure. Like Miranda can definitely like keep up with the rest of the girls. Like, I'm ready to have a conversation. I'm ready to do more with her.
Well, yeah, I immediately started just ranting about the things that I loved. And you knew more than I did about the things that I loved. And I was like, this person has to be a friend of mine, because it's difficult, especially in a city like this, when you start to talk about haute couture or designer fashion, people just think that you're a snob and you only like expensive things. But the history of fashion is so rich and beautiful, and it tells a story of, at least for women's fashion, which is what I love, obviously.
Same.
And what you love, it tells a story of femininity across over a century, I would say centuries.
I mean, honestly, I would say
since the
like
dawn of time.
Pretty much, like, when you think about like any period in fashion that like people look back onto, like the first thing that they look at is like the women's dress, like how are the women dressing? Yeah. And it's really because
more interesting than the man.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, like there's silhouette there's color, there's rich like embroidery, and a lot of history with the time period that was going on then.
I want to know about your history. You said you got into fashion at like 14, very young age.
12, yeah.
12, okay.
So
take me there.
At first, when I got into fashion, it was more, what is like, the main luxury kind of like item. And it was very like...
So like a handbag?
Pretty much, like the
sunglasses.
Gucci's, the Louis Vuittons, all the small accessories, the small leather goods, that kind of thing. And then I remember it was probably like 2011, I was like introduced to like Tumblr, and I started to like
era.
Oh God, yeah, I could not even begin to understand like what was about to happen in like my life, but it like exposed me to so much fashion.
So Tumblr is really the kind of like the reason that you fell headfirst. You had dipped your toe in, and then you made a Tumblr account, and then you were face planted into fashion.
So, it's actually really funny because I could even go back even further than that. And I would say that like as a little kid, I was really obsessed with like anime. And I remember
anime had good fit. Sailor Moon.
Oh my God, hello.
I wanted the Sailor Moon fit so bad.
And I remember when somebody had
You get on Tumblr and all you have to do is put a couple, is Tumblr still around? All you had to do.
R.I.P. Tumblr, I guess.
I'm going to speak in past tense.
Okay.
Because that was like a time, like the land before time.
No, truly.
That was like the pre-internet of it all. So
honestly, yeah.
All you had to do for our Gen Z and Alpha viewers is you just had to input and like a couple images that you liked.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you can add more images to your Tumblr page. And then it used to show you more images that you liked.
Correct. That was like their like discovery page. But I know that like once you like found blogs that you essentially liked and you would follow them, then they would start to reblog photos.
Oh, that's right.
And essentially like it would become like this like big kind of like, pool of everybody reblogging everybody's photos. And because of that, like you got a lot of like really, really great ideas.
So you got into fashion Tumblr and that was it. You're like, this is my thing.
Pretty much.
We always come back to the thing that we're meant to do.
Absolutely.
It's funny how life works like
Truly.
that. Like you don't need school to be a creative. You don't need school to
I'll say this, like I don't feel like you need a completed education because I do think that like schools are interesting. Like I think that they do offer a point of view. I think that they do offer a refinement,
especially like at the age of like 18 to 22.
Yeah.
If you're like forced to be around strangers and take class with strangers, you learn so much about yourself.
Oh God, yeah. And basically like they kind of shot me to the right direction.
Yeah.
They kind of showed me where I should be looking at, what I should be looking for. Because of that, I got several like internships, mentorships. I did like a bunch of celebrity styling. Actually, I will shout out Robert Behar. He is a really great celebrity stylist.
That's the first name drop of the episode. Potentially the last.
Most definitely the last one.
Our last guest did name drop. It's okay to name drop.
Okay, work.
Yeah. Episode 1 and 2 have some name drops. Okay.
Robert Behar was a celebrity stylist for Dolly Parton, but at the time he was celebrity styling for Naomi Campbell. And particularly it was around the start of May, so you could only imagine what he was kind of pulling for because it was the beginning of May.
Yeah.
So
Met Gala?
Absolutely. So he was very, very in focus on that and just kind of explaining to me a lot of his process.
So you were like interning or mentoring with
I
him?
would say like mentoring.
You're like
for
a little
sure.
mentee.
Ooh, yeah, absolutely.
Mentors are so important. My mentor changed my life. Shout out to Jeff Weaver.
I mean, oh my God. I don't even know who that is, but when I can tell
That's
you,
my
like,
mentor.
absolutely. Okay, like shout out to Jeff.
Weaver, Rachel Ramis, they got me here. I'll say that. And yours got you here.
I mean, absolutely.
And you're
he definitely like, I appreciate that. Like he definitely gave me, I would say like a really good like direction, especially when we were talking about couture specifically. And because he's a celebrity styler, he actually worked in like a lot of French houses. Because he was French, he was able to go to Paris and he was able to work for like Mugler even. And, you know, really got a chance to be able to like,
corset.
oh my God, talk about a corset.
Talk about a corset.
But that was what he did, you know? So it really kind of shot me in the right direction of like what I should be looking for.
So when did you start like actually crafting pieces for people?
I would say that was just before the pandemic.
Okay.
Like about 2019.
Okay, so you're about 5 years deep, almost just about.
You know, I would say like more, that's like, I'll say this with an emphasis on like hand making and couture, about 5 years deep, absolutely. But I've been actually like hand sewing and like designing and working since about 2017.
I mean, to be fair, I feel like that's like assumed because you went to like schools and you've been obsessed with fashion. I want to know like when you started really focusing on haute couture and making pieces.
Focusing on haute couture definitely about like 5 years ago, like just before the pandemic.
So how do you feel, where do you feel you're at right now in your career?
I would say like definitely like pretty, I'll say this, like I know more than I think a lot of the girls who are getting their BAs right now. And I think that I'm definitely on par with any person who's going to get their master's.
I say that you're an up and coming haute couture designer.
Absolutely. I say so too.
I mean,
but
that's
I'm
what you
trying to be
are.
humble.
Listen, this is not a couch for humble.
That's very true.
It's not.
But,
I mean, it's good to stay humble so you always like be striving for other things, but we're celebrating you. You're a guest on the pod.
That's
like
true.
let's talk about you.
I mean, yeah, I would definitely say that like I definitely am like up and coming for sure. Like everything that I do is definitely like to the body, made to fit. I drape directly to the body. And if not that, then the measurements that I'm taking are like incredibly fine measurements.
If you could describe your style, how would you?
Style, like personal style or like,
no.
You know, okay.
Like your, the House of Gannon.
So
how would you describe like,
oh God.
Because
you know, I would say that it's like incredibly sculptural. I would say that what I do would almost be considered as like actual art. And I tend to think of myself.
Fashion is art. We don't need to say otherwise.
No, absolutely.
In this pod and in my world, fashion is art.
Fashion is definitely art.
So.
And I think that like the more that people accept that fact, I mean, especially the technical skill alone is unmatched.
If music is art, fashion is art.
Truly. I mean, even in the applied ways, like fashion is, it continuously holds an elevated place in so many people's lives because of what it does.
So I got introduced to Haute Couture, ateliers, because I loved Zac Posen. It was also around the time that I got into red carpet watching. And that's when all these gorgeous ladies were like, who are you wearing? They'd be like, Zac Posen.
Interesting.
We're wearing Zac Posen.
Okay. Right. I would say like maybe like 2009 earliest for sure. Zac Posen.
But like when I would see a design on the red carpet that I loved, they were always wearing Zac Posen.
Yeah.
And the things that they had in common was having a corset fit to the body and immaculate shape and construction and eye and attention to detail and really fun colors, honestly.
Yep.
Why are we talking about corsets?
Corsets are particularly like a huge foundational part of couture. You have basically like what would be considered an unstructured element to the garment, which essentially fits around a silhouette.
Everyone wants to be snatched.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
Nobody wants to wear a corset these days.
No. And
like
honestly,
Kim Kardashian, nobody wants to do the work these days.
But nobody wants to wear a corset these days.
Nobody does. I remember when I was 16 and I was like prom dress shopping or something, that I tried on this dress that like the fit was a corset.
Okay.
And I remember the woman lacing it for me and thinking to myself, I've never seen anybody in school wear anything like this. This is kind of wonky. I wanted to fit in, and I loved being like a cheerleader in the show choir. I liked maybe not being popular, but I liked knowing everybody and who doesn't love attention.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I was like, I need to have this dress. So I put it on and I look in the mirror, and it was the first time as like a young woman, as a teenager, that I really realized that I had a shape, that I had a body, yaddy, yaddy, as you would say now. And I feel, obviously I'm almost 30 now, so it definitely was like a defining moment in my young life. And I've been like chasing that high ever since. But really, it's hard to find dresses in mainstream fashion right now that have that effect, because they don't have the boning, they don't have the structure. You're just like one dress fits all. I think that it's important to talk about American design and what's kind of like the very brief history of people that don't know much about American design. Like, who were like the notable people in that space? How did it fall and crash and burn so badly? And where are we at now?
That's really interesting. So I can definitely say that American design, particularly in terms of couture, like right now, outside of Tom Brown, doesn't exist.
Okay.
It is an idea, and the word couture is even thrown around really loosely.
Yeah.
You know, like even like juicy couture, right? Like that's not couture.
Yeah,
but like
no.
besides the point, you know.
Well, what does the word mean for people that don't know? Like myself.
For people that don't know, like haute couture, actually, if I'm not mistaken, is a fake French word that was made up by Charles Frederick Worth in about the 1860s. I know Charles seems to be like the birth of fashion, but yeah, Charles Frederick Worth, they call him the grandfather of haute couture. He dubbed the word haute couture, which is meant to be like fine sewing, fine hand sewing, essentially. So when we talk about couture, we're talking about like the finest techniques that could be applied to a garment.
Yeah.
You know, that's the stitching, that's the fabric choice, that's the design, the cut even. All of that is very particular, very precise.
And mostly done by hand.
Exactly. Mostly
all done by hand, because the robots maybe one day. But right now they're just not cutting it.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I would say that that's like the big distinction about haute couture, right? Is that like about 80% of it needs to be done by hand. Yeah. The idea about haute couture is that it is handmade, it's handcrafted. So like machinery touching it doesn't make it haute couture. I mean, sure, you can show straight stitches on like, you know, your Singer or your Juki, and that's fine. But that's, you know, maybe only like a 5% part.
So basically, couture is construction.
Correct.
So let's circle this back into American design.
Correct.
So you would say, aside from Tom Brown, haute couture is dead in
Absolutely,
America.
Yeah.
But you're doing it. Are there others like you in like this indie space that are trying to amass a clientele and like make beautiful hand sewn, hand constructed garments, or is it a rarity? Like, are you of a dying breed?
I mean, I think that there's very few people who have a strict emphasis on like what it is that I'm doing.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people, when they strive for fashion, they're striving for a quick result, the ready to wear aspect of it. They want like a full collection. And a lot of times that collection is not thought out. It's not, it becomes a hodgepodge.
That's the fashion industry's fault.
I mean, 100%.
It just is. It's so many. Like Ralph Simmons was like, I can't do this anymore.
Oh God,
he was at Dior and he was like,
famously
this is
gave up
not
Dior because
fun.
of that. Yeah, he was like, there's too many shows and I can't produce any good work.
He's like, I can't make good art if I have to churn and burn.
I know. And it's so funny because I'll be so for real with you. That's one of my favorite eras of Dior is like
It's so
round.
good.
It's so good.
You've seen the documentary?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've seen the documentary.
What's it called?
We'll
link it. We'll link it.
It's good.
I'm going to link all of the stuff I watched about Charles James too in the bottom.
Please, yeah. Shout out to Anton Parrish. Like,
yes, shout out.
Yeah.
Because I really believe that this is like a educational, motivational pod and, talk about it, be about it.
Absolutely.
Be about it. We're going to learn and watch you do your craft.
Yeah.
But we had to get here somehow with the research. So down below.
Okay.
Check it out.
And it's actually funny because my research is like years deep on Charles James. So
you're an expert. I would say you're an expert.
At this point, yeah, honestly.
But if you can get to like Miranda level, which is like maybe 3 YouTube documentaries and a lot of Googling, like it'll be below. So anyway, what's your thoughts on maybe not exactly fast fashion, but the status of dressmaking right now in modern times?
I would say that it's a lost art. It's something that is dying out. It's being bought out and sought out for consumerism. It's been really easy to allow the industry to be dictated in a way in which, like, how do you make the easiest amount of money?
Yeah.
How do you get something out quicker? How do you do it for cheaper? And that being said, like, you have a lot of people who have been either trained or are wanting to pass down information that don't have the opportunity to because the industry has been set up otherwise.
Yeah. Well, I learned recently that at Hermes, there's like a school that you have to attend.
Yeah.
Like Hermes camp training, whatever you want to call it.
Correct.
And it's like
for several
2 years.
Yeah.
And then you work your way up. Like you don't get to just start working on the Birkins, like you start on the belt or the whatever. And after you have they have a really low turnover rate. Like employees like staying there because they love their craft.
Correct.
But when they leave, and if they have like the gumption to start their own thing, they're pretty successful because there's not a ton of like master leather crafters anymore.
Right.
Just like ateliers.
Ateliers, yeah.
There's not a lot of true ateliers anymore. And someone's going to throw this into Chat GPT and correct us. But as of right now, I'm pretty sure there's not any American ateliers, like true atelier houses since Zach Posen closed his line.
Well,
like, am I wrong?
It's interesting because I think that now with people like Tom Brown, who have been a returning member at Couture for 2 seasons, almost 3 seasons, I believe. I think it's more 2 actually. But regardless, like, I would say that that's kind of the next starting of a birth of American couture. Though,
so shout out to Tom Brown.
Absolute shout out to Tom Brown.
I mean,
I actually met him. I was so shy though. It was at a book signing here in Los Angeles in Culver City.
Yeah.
Where he was like actually signing his book at, I believe it was like Arcana was the name of the book place.
Okay.
But highly recommend the book. It's gorgeous.
What did you say to him?
Nothing. Literally just shook in my shoes in my like gorgeous 1980s Perry Ellis coat with these same earrings. And I was just like, hi. And that was pretty much it.
That was
it. Yeah, I mean.
Well, it's hard to like meet your heroes
I mean,
or people
honestly,
that are
like,
doing the thing that you want to be doing.
God, yeah. I think that was pretty
by.
much it. Is like I had so much to say, but I couldn't really say it to him.
Because you're also like in a line for a book signing.
Oh no, absolutely. And there's like 400 people behind me. So I'm like, God, I need to get this out.
And if you're going to say one sentence, it's got to be so memorable.
Exactly. And I'm like, he's going to meet so many people that day. Yeah. Like, I hope he at least remembers my outfit. But
I wonder if like the Tom Brown fans have like the Taylor Swift girlies or like
oh my
the
God,
Swifties.
The brownies, that'd be cute.
If any brownies are watching this,
shout out to brownies. I don't know if they are.
Tom Brown, please take a meeting with Gannon. Just get a coffee.
Oh my God, please, yeah.
And Zach Posen,
Shout out to Zach, actually. Oh my God.
Shout out to Zach Posen.
You know, Zach and I literally share the exact same inspiration.
Yes.
Charles James, the first American couturier.
Yes, who you turned me on to.
Yeah.
But I want to open the floor for you to eloquently tell us who this person is and why he's your main source of inspiration.
Charles James is a really difficult character, for sure. He has been largely forgotten, I would say, by the whole of like the fashion industry.
And that's because he is one of the few change makers in fashion who does not have a surviving line or house, so to speak.
You know, I would say that's like partially true, though realistically, I would say it's because he didn't really play face in the industry. He was notoriously difficult to work with.
And he called people like fat to their face, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't give a bleep.
No, not at all.
There's part of that that's pretty respectable.
You know,
there
like,
is.
I would say, especially for somebody who is uncompromising in like what he wanted in his work, for sure, without a doubt. Like he definitely was.
He would make it in today's world.
Oh, absolutely.
Because being shameless is really popular and trendy right now.
Oh, God, yeah.
Like society has no shame anymore, at least American society. So I think that people would, like, especially with the end of cancel culture, like whatever's happening now, I think he could say that to somebody and someone would just laugh and giggle and like put it on TikTok and be like, okay.
You know, it's interesting because I do think that he is from like that same kind of like Joan Rivers era of like comedy and like what's funny. But it's interesting because he also did it with like, I'll say this, like an extreme amount of class. Like he didn't outwardly go out and say like, you know, you're a fatty, you know, like it was.
No, he just was like, I can't dress that. Like you got no shape to work with.
Exactly. You know, like for him, it was about that. It was about the shape and if there was a shape that he could bring out of you.
Right.
And I mean, like I have this like one funny little note that I found on him. It was like a little like quip from Bill Cunningham, who was like a famous New York street photographer. They were in correspondence a lot, but I guess Charles had wrote to him one time about how this fur designer didn't want to take his pattern and make the coat. So he ended up going to the factory with a jar of moths and basically saying, I'll break this open right now and you better make my coat. And
oh my gosh, that's where they got the inspiration from the Emma Stone Cruella movie.
Probably.
There's like a whole moth moment. Wow.
Yeah.
His hands are in everything.
Oh, when I tell you all roads lead back to Charles James.
So here's what I learned as somebody that loves to deep dive and obviously prepare for this interview because I know he's your main source of inspiration. He is credited for inventing the strapless gown.
Yes.
The puffer jacket.
Yes.
The wool coat.
Yep.
And the wrap dress.
Pretty much, yeah.
Am I missing anything? That's pretty iconic four-piece there.
I mean, you know, it's also really funny because there's a lot of people that don't realize, like, he did what's, like, considered, like, a figure 8 pant or skirt, where the skirt literally wraps around all the way.
Number 5.
But, you know, I'll be real with you, like, he's done so much more than that, that it's, like, really hard to say.
So first time that
I'll even say this,
okay,
to, like...
tell me.
Dior actually credits him for making the new look. Dior literally says that if it was not for him, he would not have made his 1947 collection.
And he also said, from my stalking on the internet, Christian Dior is also quoted as saying that Charles James is, like, of his generation, the greatest dressmaker.
Yeah.
The greatest dressmaker of my generation.
Yeah.
That's a statement.
I mean, even Balenciaga revered his work. Yeah. Balenciaga literally was like, he has turned dressmaking into a high art form.
And it's funny, the story about Coco and Elsa, Chanel and Elsa Schiaparelli, they both put in orders.
But only Coco got it for free.
Only Coco got it for free. Which is interesting. And I wonder, we'll never know, but I wonder if that's because they, like Coco Chanel, Charles James also started off in millinery.
You know what? I think that is possible.
Did I say the word?
Millinery is right,
Millinery, which is hat making.
It is hat making, yes.
Charles James has clearly inspired your work. What specifically are people going to notice or liken in your designs to his?
Charles James was a genius and an innovator in cut and application of fabric and manipulating fabric to the body. I've spent years trying to get as close as possible to try to understand like his methodology. And there's been like a lot of books that have come out in the recent years that have really talked about how a lot of his designs were made. And it's interesting because he tended to build out shape from the body and go from there. So he would essentially pad out things using tissue paper and a newspaper and wrap it around in a cage. And then that would be like the base for the design of a coat. Essentially, like that's what I tend to do is I will tend to like pad out, creating shape to the body, and then going from there. But
So that's not a typical process in today's.
well, I would say that like it's not in the way in which like he does it.
Got it.
He does it in a way to create a fluid air around the body so that the garment, while even being fitted, essentially doesn't feel uncomfortable. It gives you silhouette, it gives you structure, it gives you posture even, but it doesn't make you feel like you're dying.
Definitely, like I felt so beautiful.
I mean, that is like the key, right? Is like you want the client to feel beautiful. You
Yeah.
want them to feel good. And I think that like Charles James like knew that about like women, is that like that's what they wanted. They wanted beauty. And he
How do you want people to feel in one of your garments?
Oh God. I mean,
What's the first thing that comes to mind?
glamorous, to be quite honest, is like the first thing that
Glamour.
comes to mind.
Okay.
I mean, like I am Los Angeles born and raised. So when you talk about glamour, like the first thing that comes to mind, you know, for me is always like Hollywood and like that kind of thing, even though I grew up nowhere near it.
That's okay. It's
I
hard to miss it when you're here.
I mean, definitely it's everywhere. And for me, like that kind of solidifies like how I want my woman to feel. I
Yeah.
grew up around a lot of glamorous women, you know, even just being here in Los Angeles. So like, I want that for the rest of America too.
We deserve it.
You deserve it. Yes, everybody deserves it.
Everybody deserves glamour.
Yeah, they do. You know, like, I think inspiration, but like, yeah, like, when Charles James like created his pieces, like he had like that in mind, like glamour and how like women wanted to feel the sensuality that like it kind of alluded to.
Yeah.
And he would honestly bring that out by his like cutting methods, how he would like actually take, you know, 60 by 60 pieces of fabric and like drape it to his forms in order to achieve, you know, like perfect silhouette and perfect shape, giving him like enough fabric to be able to like play with volume and, you know, like hiding the areas in which women were a little bit more like insecure about even.
Yeah.
And it became, you know, these sculptural pieces that American women, and I think women all over the world who bought pieces from him, realized that they were some of the most stunning dresses, and they've kept them in their closets for years and did
Yeah.
not ever sell them.
Yeah.
And now majority of them exist in museums.
Just like the movie Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris.
Yes, with Dior.
Where
Yeah.
she's like a housekeeper and she sees the Dior gown and just everybody deserars glamour.
Absolutely.
It became her dream
It
to get
did.
one. And it's such a heartwarming movie.
It
but
really is cute,
I think
yeah.
any woman, since that's what you specialize in, so I'm going to
Yeah.
focus in on
Women.
women. Any woman can agree that there's something, it's hard to like put your finger on when you're in a garment that makes you feel glamorous.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like world conquering energy.
I mean, the way that, you know, you should feel, especially in clothes, is powerful, is good. Like you should, again, like feel like you're ready to take on anything.
Yeah.
I mean,
Look good, feel
why
good
not?
comes from somewhere.
Hello.
And I feel it.
Look, I mean, every day is a new day to slay. So I think that
Yeah.
you should like kind of wake
Every
up.
day is a new day to slay.
I
That's
think
my new
that,
saying.
like, you should wake up and you should take on the day and kind of think like, absolutely, like, you know, why am I not going to wear this piece that I've spent like good money on
Mm-hmm.
even? And, you know, because of that, like I've actually kind of like redone my whole wardrobe. Besides the point, I think
I'm
that
doing
like,
the same thing. We all go through eras of
Look,
life.
I think that like because of that, people should also invest in like good pieces and pieces that are going to last them a long time.
Yeah.
And I do think that means, you know, like,
That's
don't
why.
devalue labor.
Yeah,
And
don't devalue. Listen.
hire the young designer who you
Hire 'em.
believe in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aw.
Make them absolutely understand like your intention and understand like what you want. And I
Yeah.
think that like delivering on that is like key.
We got to talk about the denim dress at the Met this year.
Oh,
Yeah.
the denim dress.
So
Gap.
Zach Posen
Yeah.
at Gap makes a ton of sense because A, American denim.
Correct.
B, who doesn't want one of the best American designers alive to be running Gap Inc.?
Hello.
Makes so much sense.
Absolute sense.
And C, all roads lead back to Charles
Charles J.
James. And what was the quote about denim dresses? Or denim?
Denim being the most glamorous and the most sexy piece of garment that you can wear is the blue
Okay.
jean. But I think that like in my head, like how do you make an iconic outfit even more iconic? The most classic Jessica Rabbit, you know, like she has
Very
the exact,
sultry.
I mean, hello, like she has the look that any Playboy house bunny would have killed for.
Yeah. We also love the Sailor Moon fit. Also
Yeah.
corset.
It
Corset and a
is
skirt.
absolutely a corset. And the Sailor Moon creator was inspired by high runway outfits like Chanel and
So good.
Yeah.
What other classic cartoon fits are you obsessed with?
Okay, Nana, which is one of my favorite animes actually.
Okay.
I like grew up watching it. Like the actual creator has one of the main characters in Vivienne Westwood. Purely
No,
Vivienne
that's awesome.
Westwood. And it's so good. A lot of pieces that are hard or like rare to find. And it's so great too because I know that they ended up having like collaborations in Japan where they released like specific Japanese Vivienne Westwood pieces that are like collector's editions now. But
Shout out to Japan.
I know, the best resellers in the world.
I know.
Like no fakes policy.
Also,
like,
shout
yeah.
out to, if we're going to talk about American denim, who's doing American denim better than Japan
I was
right
gonna
now?
say, I was like, they literally bought out all of our denim like factory machines.
Yeah, they
So,
bought them
like,
all.
Yeah, all of them.
They
They're in
bought 'em
Japan.
all. Yep.
So
And not only that, like Japan's also maybe doing whiskey better.
ooh, you know
That's a
what?
hot take.
Actually,
That's a
Midori
hot
is
take.
so good.
That's
so,
a hot
like,
take.
The Japanese, like I can say it like
Perfectionist.
Yeah, like perfect everything.
Everything.
Like it is like purely like
Yeah.
for the sake of like how can we keep making it better?
Yep.
And even better is not good enough.
What's so weird about that though is they take like whiskey from us and do it better, arguably, and they take denim from us and do it better, arguably. But I watched this documentary about how like soy sauce, like how soy sauce is classically made is like a
God,
dying
yeah,
trade.
It is.
Don't let us lose that, Japan.
I mean, it's
You can
so
take our denim, you can
wild.
take our whiskey, but don't take the classic ways of making soy sauce.
I mean, even like indigo dyeing.
Yeah.
Traditionally done indigo dyeing, you know, is dying out. Like that's no longer done. Traditional like silk weaving in Japan, like is like not being made anymore, not being done.
So by supporting high fashion,
Yeah.
you are supporting these dying, beautiful skill set trades.
Absolutely. And I think that it's
That's
important.
another reason.
Absolutely. It's so important to find people who are making things handmade that are dying out because realistically, like when that's gone, it's gone. You won't ever have the opportunity to repurchase that
Yeah.
thing. And I mean, think about all of the buildings that we have, right? Like when you demolish them, the people that made those buildings, if they're dead, they're not going to recreate
Yeah.
that. The
No,
architecture is just lost.
can't.
So when you have something that like burns down or is destroyed because of city ordinances or like whatever, you know, it is really a lost art and it is like worth preserving.
Yeah.
Everything that everybody does. Yeah.
That's why, honestly, thrifting is so important because
Truly.
you can find really beautiful fabrics that you just can't find easily anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it's really difficult to find a silk shirt and
Oh, I
that
mean-
doesn't cost $500.
I was going to say like,
I have this hot take that
Yeah.
anything costs either 20 or 200. Like, there's literally no middle.
you don't dictate the market.
Ooh. I did not think that's where you were going.
Yeah.
You don't dictate the market. I was
No.
going to say stop it with the sheen holes.
Well,
That's super bad fast fashion.
the thing is like, how do I say this? Like the consumer realistically, when you think about the big consumer overall, they're going where they assume the best deal is. But the thing is that they don't realize that like in turn, they're not dictating the market.
Yeah.
They are not showing what they actually want.
Yeah.
And because of that, you have people like H&M, like Zara, like Shein,
Yeah.
who come in and say, Well, we know that you guys think that a shirt is worth $12, even though that's a complete devaluation of labor.
And those brands also completely rip off stuff right off the runway.
Oh no, all the time.
Right off. Steve Madden
and then
rips
make it in
stuff off.
100% plastic, as if like that's not going to be worse for the environment.
Support American haute couture designers like yourself. Don't be scared. If your friend has a skill in anything, support them. Use it, because literal tangible skills are a dying trade. A dying thing in general in American society, and honestly all over the world with like digital media.
Oh my God.
I'm making a new digital media thing, but I
Neither
digress.
here nor there.
And I would say like my hottest take on fashion is like, stop buying fibers that are going to break down. Like, don't be scared of a 100% cotton shirt or 100% linen. Like it's going to last you so long. It might be 40, 50% more expensive, but I guarantee you it lasts longer than that piece from a fast fashion brand.
Absolutely.
Like you throw it in the dryer. I mean, you shouldn't put your shirts in the dryer, but
line dry everything, please.
Hang dry, line dry. But anyway, like you dry it once or twice and all the fibers come apart. It's like, oh my God, well, what do you think? It's made out of like polysynthetic bullcrap.
Exactly. And it's sewn poorly, super fast. Like they're not paying attention. They just want it out.
Yeah. Check eBay. Go thrifting and support your friends that make cool stuff.
Exactly. If you're going to buy brand new, do that.
# American Haute Couture. Bring it back.
Thank you. Bring back the formal atelier in America.
Bring back formal wear.
Oh, bring back ball gowns.
Bring back ball gowns.
Yeah.
Less spandex?
No spandex.
No spandex.
Zero spandex.
No. You hate Lululemon.
We won't get started on that.
Okay. I wanted to commission a corset, could be worn other places.
Right.
And I was also formatting the podcast, and I thought to myself, let's do both. It fits the format perfectly. You've already started the piece I commissioned, which is the bunny suit. Mm-hmm. What I know for sure you've done so far is you made a sketch.
Yes.
You took my measurements.
Yes.
And you shopped for satin.
I've shopped for, crepe back satin, as well as the chiffon. That's going to go, corset as like a sarong piece to kind of hide up underneath. If you wanted to wear the two.
I don't want to know anymore.
Okay,
I want to be surprised.
Okay.
I want to be surprised. And I also want to take a moment to my feminist girlies and the haters and the comments and just talk about why I want a bunny suit.
Look.
I've always loved the bunny suit, not because of what like it stood for, because of Hugh Hefner, but I think that femininity is so beautiful and well-fitted garments are so beautiful. And that has to be one of the most iconic American corseted designs ever. It's got to be a top 5,
Absolutely.
if not number 1.
I mean, it's funny because it's the only design that I think people keep coming back to.
Yeah.
It's so iconic. It's so classic. I mean, it was based off of lingerie to begin with.
Yeah.
So, like it literally makes the body look beautiful.
So shout out to Charles
James.
All
literally.
roads lead back to Charles James. They're also having a renaissance.
Yeah, they are.
At Playboy.
They are.
Good for them. Just like
and
the Gap.
I will just say, like, it's not going to look exactly like it.
No,
but
that's okay.
It'll definitely be
inspired by.
Oh, yeah. Like, the most inspired by.
It's your vision. It's your take on the bunny suit.
I mean, like, if you want, I can even describe a little bit about, like, the inspiration right now.
Please.
So, realistically, like, the bunny suit is already iconic.
Yeah.
But I think that, like, in my head, like, how do you make an iconic outfit even more iconic? Ooh. And so I start to think about like, well, who were the women that would wear those garments? And it was very notable women, right? But I then think about like, well, if this was based after a 1950s garment, based after pinup models, like it kind of led me to other routes. And I started thinking, like the most classic rabbit of them all is Jessica Rabbit. Like she has
very
the exact,
sultry.
I mean, hello, like she has the exact same body, the exact same silhouette, the look that, any Playboy house bunny would have killed for.
Yeah,
so
truly.
Why not mix the two and make a Playboy bunny suit that essentially looks like Jessica Rabbit?
I would have never thought to do that.
I mean,
but I'm not you.
Hey,
And I'm excited.
I don't think I've seen anybody else do that.
So this is a true commission.
Yeah.
I came to you. I paid you money.
Yeah.
True commission.
Yeah.
So I am technically supporting American Haute Couture.
We are going to essentially go through the fitting stages where we'll put the mock-up on you. We'll see what needs to be fixed, if anything at all. Essentially, we'll make those adjustments, those corrections. As a client, you'll obviously have say in how you want the cut to look, where you want things to end. If things are too tight, that definitely needs to be like, said.
Yeah.
A corset should be beautiful, but it shouldn't be uncomfortable.
In the fittings, I get to give a little feedback.
Correct.
This too tight. This doesn't.
Yeah.
Can we change X, Y, Z?
Right.
But the bones and the idea and the fabric, they're already there.
Correct. Everything is already there. Everything is already chosen for. The idea is already solidified. So essentially, it's just making sure that you, as the client, like the way that the garment is turning out.
I'm really excited for this. In all of my favorite fashion movies, like Phantom Thread.
Say less. Okay, all roads lead back to Charles James. They based the character off of Charles James, the main character.
That's what made him straight. Yeah.
Well, Charles James actually did have a wife, but
she was rich and he was broke. I think that's highly debated. Come on.
I mean, I guess. But,
Hashtag Elton John wife.
Oh, but,
Okay.
So look.
Okay, sorry. But okay, it's Charles James. Phantom Thread.
Phantom Thread.
When I watch all these movies about the era of having clients that would go to the fashion shows, I mean, that's why fashion shows were invented, to present your collection to the client so they can put in their orders and then they would be made to order.
Yeah.
I always thought to myself, oh, it'd be so awesome to have a made to order garment.
Oh God, yeah.
And I'm doing that now.
Look
with
at you. Dreams made.
I'm so excited.
I really just hope that like more designers get into like made to order commissions.
Yeah.
And more couture pieces. I think that it is something that needs to be saved. The technique is.
I think people want that. The problem is it's so expensive. Like, not saying that you are expensive, but if you're in a house, a fashion house, I mean, this is what happened to Zach Posen.
I mean, absolutely.
Like, it's really difficult model to be sustainable. So you have to be.
For sure, difficult. I will say this, though. I think that it's because we've devalued labor. We've looked at how people make clothes and we expect it to be done immediately. A lot of times the consumer wants the finished piece now. And the thing is like...
And that's why fast fashion is successful. Exactly. One of the reasons, at least.
But, even then, like, when you think about it, a lot of times, like, the conditions in which people work in those factories for fast fashion, they're being kept, 12, 16, 18 hours to make thousands, if not tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of pieces that they only maybe see pennies to the dollar on, if that. And it's wild because if that is anything, it is a devaluation of labor. There's so many things that come out of those places that are so
skilled labor
good.
is so lacking in this country.
It is. It's because we've outsourced everything.
Yeah, we've outsourced everything, and we've also like really pushed the 4-year degree when plumbers are quietly making like $80 an hour.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean,
I need a plumber in LA, and just to look at something, it's like $75. It's like,
I mean, the death of American creativity and, ingenuity for sure died with like the death of the trade school, 100%. Like people stopped going to trade schools because they were pushing the space race and all of those things.
And what's crazy is they still exist. There was a trade school in my hometown.
I mean, there's trade schools here in Los Angeles.
My cousin went to a trade school.
Yeah.
And now she works on airplanes. And she has a great life.
I personally think that like some of the most skilled people, even like outside of people who've completed like trade schools, are honestly like the dropouts, truly.
Yeah.
Like the people who have gone to those schools didn't complete it. People like myself. But like, you leave and you're still passionate. Like you feel like there's still so much more to accomplish. And so like you do seek out a lot of those like things that you want to make sure are kept alive. And I think for me, like, I'm really hoping that the American designer comes across couture and that like made to order and that like fine hand sewing aspect again. I think that the American women are definitely deserving of it. And it's absolutely, I'm tired of seeing stretched spandex. I'm tired of seeing, I truly believe that like the American women deserve glamour. They truly deserve beauty. They deserve sensuality and they deserve luxury, which is absolutely haute couture 100% through and through.
America has a lot of really great things. We have a lot of bad things. but we have a lot of great things.
Yeah.
And, fashion, although the rest of the world would say that we haven't contributed much to
We've
fashion
contributed
society,
so much.
we've contributed so much.
Oh my God.
And people like you are continuing to contribute. And I just want to say thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you
am
very
so
much.
happy to support your dream, your goals, and to be one of the first clients.
Absolutely, yeah.
Of
Definitely one of the
Gannon J.
first.
Cooksey.
Yeah.
I can't wait to have you in part 2 and see what you dream up and teach and show people the labor of love that goes into making made to order pieces.
Yeah, I cannot wait to show you. It'll be such an intriguing process.
Yay. Let's do it.
Oh, great.
See you in
Miranda.
part 2.
Yeah, part 2.
Okay. Thanks for watching episode 2, part 1 of Talk About It, Be About It. Make sure you check out part 2 where we go be about it with Gannon and we get a bunny suit made.